Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the 2024 Victorian Historic Racing Register Winton Festival of Speed, the Group C feature race. Now, we've just had tributes. There's nothing tributing about this. In fact, we've got to tribute every single one of these car owners for keeping these race cars on the track. I'm Darren Smith right alongside me. Don't be confused, it's Darren Knight, the rock star out of historic tin top type of racing. And we're going to have to continue on with the technical problems we've got. We've got two grown men here sharing one microphone attached to a headset. So this is going to get very interesting here indeed. The grid sheet looks a little bit like this. On pole position will be Brian Henderson. We'll take it away in the number 15, Stephen Axisa, right alongside in the 69, Justin Nilsson. And if I'm correct, the number 60, that is a little Exa Turbo, so that will acquit itself very, very nicely around the Winton Motor Raceway in off the second row of the grid. Ed Singleton in the STP Commodore, Adam Workman in the 16 there, Glenn Gersel to Anthony Sorford, Lindsay Woolard, Ian Ross in that big Falcon down there that was just making its way around. Cars just making their way down to the grid now, and we are away. Rolling start for these cars, and it is an absolute massive barrel down into turn one. It's going to be the 15. The Datsun goes through, or the Nissan as it was known. The Bluebird gets through there, then we get up to the top of the hill, and it will be Stephen Axisa drops into position number 2. Ed Singleton, who's won a fair share of awards in this sort of racing there as well, as we just see Justin Nilsson in the number 60 drop back a spot there as well. And we'll try and bring Darren Knight in on this one as well as we come around through the sweeper. Singleton, Nilsson to Gersel, Workman, Woolard, Sorford, Tremble, and then Woods in the 28 just going backwards there. But our screens fill with this magnificent looking Bluebird.
Brian Henderson, the pole winner Bathurst in 1980, the ex-George Fury machine, and his first visit to Winton domestic formula from 1973 through to the end of 1984.
Certainly some great looking bits of kit coming out of Roadways Racing. Fills the screen there with the STP car just going back a spot there. The 52 there, that's Glenn Gersel also in that car. I reckon that's probably furthest that car's run up a field in Group C trim, running here in the Festival of Speed here this weekend, being driven very well. But have a look at the Pulsar. It is just absolutely period perfect, isn't it? Get into the corners, and the Pulsar was all over the back of them. And I'm going to say the names of Christine Gibson and etc. drove these X's so very, very well.
Justin Nilsson behind the wheel of that little front-wheel drive Nissan Pulsar Exa. Yes, that's right, folks. Turbocharged front-wheel drive, about 300 horsepower. So amazing little machine, developed locally, of course, by Alan Marsden and the team. And Justin is having a great run right behind the next red Geisler Commodore of Glenn Gersel.
What?
To the right on Nilsson's tail as well. And the ex-STP Roadways Commodore having a great run.
I reckon Justin's owned this car longer than the factory did. He's had it in his shed, I'm going to say 3 times longer. Look at this. Looks to the inside, plugs the gap. Just enough room being given there by Gersel, but manages to get the 308 working very, very nicely indeed. Gee, it's got to be hard to keep the 308 thumping along in these cars, doesn't it? Getting harder.
For the shed many years ago in touring car racing, of course. Brian Henderson still leading in the Bluebird, turbocharged 1.8 litres, so not the domestic 2-litre we have out here, the imported version of Bluebird developed by Martha and his team. Fred Gibson, of course, intrinsic in that, having a very strong run at the moment in front of Steve Axisa. That goes on between Gersel and Nilsson and Singleton.
Gee, wasn't the Group C world turned on its head when a turbocharged car started to come? None more than when a rotary car came on the scene as well. We don't have any of those here this weekend, but certainly when those turbocharged Bluebirds came on the scene, people were left scratching their heads, weren't they? How did they go from practicing and being 30th and things like that to then when it had to do a lap just dial up a bit of Howard Marsden magic and set the farmer off with his Bluebird around the Mount Panorama. It was just something wild, wasn't it? You and I were just kids, but certainly remember everyone scratching their head. What are we going to do with these turbo cars? I think initially the word was let's just ban them.
Well, there's a bit of that going on, yeah, certainly amongst the V8 runners, but speaking of V8 runners, Ed Singleton has got past Birstall on that lap, so Singleton now up to 5th place. Next, Alan Grice, STP Roadways, Group C. 2 and 1,
yeah, that Gricey Roadways Commodore, Les Small, weighed in on his career in a big way with those cars, and Gricey was certainly always featured at the top, and it was a lot later in his career before he was embraced by the factory teams. But he was he always sort of wore that the bandit type of attitude, didn't he?
It was amazing that he actually drove cars that had mild written on the side of them. There was nothing mild in that way Alan Grice drove. Throwing the cat amongst the pigeons.
Have a look at this race now. It's Henderson, Axisa, Nilsson now back into 3 in the Exa. Then we go back to Ed, Singleton, Gersel. And then it's the 16 of Workman.
Second of the Bluebird turbos out there. So first time we've seen the 2 Bluebirds running here at Winton. That was the second of the Bluebirds built by the local Jackson team. Actually campaigned in 81 through to 83, and that map was replaced by the car that is leading this race, the number 3 third built car, number 15 driven by Brian Henderson at the front of the field at the moment. No surprise, he's got the fastest lap so far, 134.16.
There's the 15, just some good shots there, giving you the ambience of the Winton Motor Raceway out over the campgrounds there. So plenty of people embracing. Just in the background there's a round of the Victorian Motor Carter Championship going on. So the Festival of Speed, living up to every word of it, isn't it? There's everywhere you look, there's a bit of camping. You know, there's not too much speeding going on over there, but there's some nice campfires and relaxing going on. Then the Motor Carter, and then you cast your eyes smack bang into this action and the live streaming as well, and screen being filled by that number 15 Brian Henderson car that set his pole run. And I tell you what, they've got themselves a healthy old lead now. The Axisa Commodore back to the Exa. It's out over 11.5 seconds in this run.
XC hardtop of Mondriset. We just saw it briefly on the screen there. The Rusty French Falcon hardtop, huge machine, huge tyres on the back of the big coupe, hardtop or creep, I should say. Doing a great job. I think he's running for a couple of years after taking the wheel from his father. He's involved in a good battle there with Tony Alford, the little twin cam Escort in front of the Gary Chick, excellent Grice Commodore, first version of the Group C Commodore.
And 3. Love it. Good shot.
The lead pair doing a very, very nice job out there in front at the moment. Plenty of other cars to attract our interest here this weekend, but they are really doing a terrific job. Last glance at the timing screen, they were 13.5 seconds away from the rest of the field in only 4 laps. And I've got just under 4 minutes remaining in this run for the Group C cars. Daz, it's got to be difficult these days when you look back, particularly the Bluebirds, which were kind of a bespoke sort of Group C car. To keep these things going, you've got to be rummaging around the parts bin pretty hard these days.
Yeah, it's not easy. Certainly not as easy as running a Commodore. It's not easy running any of these cars. And speaking of Commodore, Steve Axisa snuck up to the back of our race leader, Brian Henderson, with just over 3 minutes to go in this race. So Brian Henderson not having points his own way towards the end of this first race for the Group C Heritage Touring cars. Steve Axisa has been involved in the category for many years. Also owns the only LJX1 Group C Prada we see briefly. It started out in the Group C Gemini of all things. And he's right with Henderson as we head towards the end of this race.
Couple of great sponsors there, Tough Mounts, McDonald Automotive from Wangaratta, Old Car Radios, Mark Sully, and a great picture across the bottom of the screen there for Mark Sully, and that's what he does, brings old radios back to life, and Rapid Smash Repairs, all part of the package, bringing us this weekend's racing. Equity One, of course, Shannon's, and Wonder RV, CoolDriveandGrays.com. Oh no, this is Ian Ross, the guy. He's torn the front of that car off, Darren, hasn't he?
So Ian Ross, ex-bike Emery XG Falcon. It looks like he's had an excursion. The front splitter on that car is damaged, and Ian Ross has come to a stop on the old front straight, not going any further. A little bit of unburnt fuel there has sullied the door. Ross gets the Falcon underway though, so we won't see any safety cars, thankfully.
He's torn the front splitter off though, hasn't he? Oh, that's all disappeared underneath the car. So he's obviously had an excursion, and
I haven't seen it, but I would suggest probably the entry onto the old back straight. That's quite often when we see guys going off, and Lee Birstall has an issue in their front tire, so
So Gerstle, that's in off turn 2. So I wonder if those two strangely had it coming together at all between the two of them, because one sort of came off to the driver's left, one's gone off to driver's right, but it looked like Ian Ross's car was the only one that had any particular damage to it. Not that we could see Gerstler's car. This is back in the field. This is for 4th and 5th on the road. And Ed Singleton, we know he likes a maximum attack. He's not a kind of guy that spares the horses in these type of Group C drop races either.
Ed has raced last time he did his radical.
Yeah. And this is where the exploration of turbo cars came into it, because all of a sudden they had all this heat build up, and they had to start to work out how to get all that heat out of the car, because the turbo was running white hot, and it looks as though these guys, have they taken the checkered? Yes, they have. So that will see first blood go to the Nissan. So Bluebird takes race number 1 in the Group C's.
Brian Henderson, the winner from Steve Axisa. Justin Nilsson will bring a little Exa home in great 3rd place. Had a torrid time here last year, went through 3 gearboxes in as many days, so it's like a new pair of socks every day for Justin with gearboxes. Unfortunately, it has not happened this time. Thankful that he's taken a great 3rd place.
3 Fords. We just saw the XA Coupe to the exit Mike Emery car that Ian Ross is driving. And I'm not sure who the Escort was, but little yellow and blue Escort, probably a Rod Stevens in those colours.
Derek Wickett, front to see Derek back out there, has not run for many years in Victoria. That 2 Escorts, I'd like to see Derek back this summer.
Cars still coming to the line now. We're just watching the Gertzel car. It's going back on its own steam at the moment, just driving back, and it looks to have had a little bit of right-hand rear just behind the wheels damage there. So there's our 1st and 2nd on the road. 3rd was Justin Nilsson out of the back of shop to Workman, N. Singleton, Woolard, Sorwood, Trembath, Delaney, Muller, Alford, Woods, Chick, Vondrask, Spender, Adamson, Gertzel. So in the end, Gertzel still classified inside the 20, but won't be classified as a finisher, so will be removed. Ian Ross did get to the line, and then it'll be Parrish next, and that will see the end of our Group C feature race for today. We'll take a very quick break and see if we can rectify these technical concerns that we're having here in the commentary booth, and we'll be back with more trackside here at the Winton Festival of Speed for 2024 very proudly presented by the Victorian Historic Racing Register and our sponsors, Equity One, Wonderland RV, Shannon's Insurance, Cool Drive, Grays.com. Back in a moment. Welcome back trackside. Big shout out to Equity One as we see Dean Koutsamidis finish his race in the Formula 4. Just down the pack a little bit, but they're coming together in that one. But shout out to Equity One, Wonderland RV. They're just right behind the kiosk area in the main straight. Check out all their wares. Shannon's Insurance on 134646. Cool Drive and Grays.com online there as well. Group A, 5 litre, 2 litre feature race coming on. A bit of a compact field of cars. Darren Knight right alongside me. Now, technical glitches all gone. We're about to get serious with this sort of racing. Group A, 5 litre and 2 litre touring cars out on track. And boy, there's some cars with some pretty steep heritage, isn't there?
It certainly is, Darren. We saw their brothers, I suppose you could say, the Group C cars earlier. Now we have Group A and some invited cars coming under the Heritage Touring Car umbrella. So those invited cars include the David Hulk ex-Kevin Waldock Falcon, making its first return to the track for many, many years. We saw Braxy do that interview with David Hulk a little bit earlier, so it's great to see another one of the forerunners to V8 supercars out on the track. This car was built before they were known as supercars, originally called Group 3A, which confused a lot of people. They continued having a Group A sticker on them when they were obviously not Group A cars, but that's what they were called before we adopted the supercar name.
It was a short period in history, quite confusing, wasn't it? It was when Tiga left and Avesco came in and
all sorts of stuff
all
was
different bits and pieces was going on. It was all jostling for who was who in the zoo, really, wasn't it?
Certainly was, but the homegrown category, of course, that took over from the International Group A formula, which ended in 1994. So it's great to have some of these early 5-litre touring cars was their name to start with.
Yep. All Super Tourer in there as well. Trevor Schumack in that BMW, and although some of these V8s are going to have a pretty cool note to them, that BMW will absolutely scream its way around here. The Capri Components car, as it was known by Laurie Nelson for many, many years, on the third row there with Trent Harrison alongside Chris Oxley, and down into turn 1 we go. Pete Zibris is in the field as well, current V8 supercar team owner.
Having his very first circuit race, so great to see Peter join on board the ranks. David Hulk is leading from Kyle Alford in the 2-wheel drive Nissan Skyline Turbo. He's just in front of Adrian Alesi in the Walkinshaw Commodore. The Gary Wilmington machine. He's just in front of that BMW mentioned, Darren, of Trevor Schumack, of course, a long time distributor of Michelin Motorsport tyres in this country. Purchased the car a couple of years ago and is getting right stuck into it. This is a great example of an early BMW Super Tourer.
Yeah, the Johnny Cicotto car was what that one was famous for, and I think it's still running some Johnny Cicotto name signage on the back of it as well, if I remember correctly, after the last time I saw that car out of the workshop in Brayside there. But just watching this Nissan here, flames out the side, absolutely period perfect flames too, orange in colour, as opposed to the ethanol type flames we see these days of the blue in colour. Of course, all these cars running the great race fuels 104, I think, or 102, race 102, which is the replacement for Avgas and some of the fuels that were around at the time. But these turbo cars, certainly fuel played such an important part. They had to get it absolutely right. And these under 2-litre cars, or 2-litre Super Tourers as well, they did start to run some of those more exotic ELF racing fuels in Europe as well.
Adrian Alesi not mucking around. He rounded up Kyle Alford around the outside there, and I saw that big Walkinshaw Commodore actually lift a rear wheel. So keep an eye on the number 40 Commodore in second place at the moment behind David Hulk in the 5-litre Falcon. So Alesi has been running in Heritage Touring Cars for many years, has a couple of Walkinshaws at his disposal, and he is on the charge at the moment.
Gee, you can hardly go to a race meeting without a macro on the side of the car, right from Peter, Adam and Tim. Although it's not Peter, Adam or Tim, or Adam who was the driver of this car back with Alan Jones in the era. But certainly Adam Macro drove numerous cars throughout time. and a great racer. And of course his brother Tim won numerous Formula 3 championships, and his father Peter as well ran in the that Formula Mondiale Pacific era in the Cheetahs. With
That's
Brian
the
Sheep.
brand of chassis, not talking about their moral.
Spelled C-H-E-E-T-A-H as opposed to the questionably moralistic people out there. But motorsport wouldn't be motorsport without a cheetah of either version.
Trevor Schumacher just rounded up Kyle Alford, so the BMW now up into third place, as Darren mentioned, previously run by World Motorcycle Champion Johnny Cicotto, who was nicknamed Johnny Chocolotto at Bathurst all those years ago in some of his sporadic appearances at the Great Race.
Yeah, certainly Bob Jane used to like to sling Johnny Cicotto in there. I remember the 635 CSI in the orange livery, very similar to Pete Sibrus's car that he's running here, the VK Commodore, that synonymous orange Bob Jane T-Marts type of livery. So getting a good look at the cars accelerating out of turn 2. And watch the turbo car, the Nissan, just swinging in through there as well.
Good to see Trent Harrison out there in the Alpha GTV6. Of course, the Harrison family, they really are alpha-holics. There is an F in there, alpha-holics. So great to see Trent back out there, the famous Ignis bright yellow little 2.5 litre V6, a car driven with much verve, of course, by Colin Bond and Alan Jones in that first year of the Group A touring car category here in Australia in 1985.
Have a look at this. Schumacher getting very, very lively now all over the back of Arsley, and looks to be putting the nose of the Alpha up in there. And as this race starts to wear on, you just know that Trevor Schumacher's given himself a special set of Michelins out of the truck to put on this particular BMW. So it will become all rubbered up, all sticky, and the big Commodore in front will start to roll around on its tyres. I don't know that for sure, that he's got anything other than what he had out of the truck there, Trev. He's probably running stuff from 2 or 3 years ago.
Wouldn't be unusual in any form of historic racing, of course, to use some old rubber. That's a car, of course, that went on to become a Diet Coke BMW for Paul Morris in 1994. On screen now we have Peter Zibris, of course, Premier Supercar team owner, having his first run in the ex-Graham Crosby VK Commodore, the first version of the Group A Commodore, of course, carburetor engine, not the fuel-injected engine that Adrian Alesi has at his disposal in the Walkinshaw Commodore.
Of course, Pete Zibris as well, one of the fastest Australians too. He's a top fueler. That's his heritage is drag racing. And I guess he thought, well, I can hold on to the steering wheel for 4 seconds down a straight drag strip. How hard can it be to hold on to the steering wheel for 20 minutes and to go for a race around? Completely different genre, really, isn't it? It's almost a different sport. It's a sprint racer versus a marathon racer, really, isn't it?
It is. Got a couple of corners here and there in circuit racing, and Pete, great to see him out there. He is a collector of historic cars as well, so it's great to see him having it out on the track, not parked in a man cave somewhere. So well done to Peter for bringing that beautiful Bob Jane T-Marts livery Commodore out on the track as David Holk continues to lead from Adrian Alesi.
It's interesting, yes, the older Falcon here and the transition of Australian motorsport away from the international formula to the bespoke, very, very bespoke Australian formula, and that was ended up being what was called Avesco V8 supercars, now to these days just called supercars, and it was very widely supported by the big 2 manufacturers, being Holden and Ford here in Australia for a long, long time, and sadly we don't have that industry here anymore either. But here's Pete Zibris again, the Trans-Tasman Group, Bob Jane T-Marts as it was supported in the day. And I'm going to go so far as to say, Darren Knight, that Peter Zibris is really enjoying himself out there at the moment, really getting himself accustomed to it. He's made a pass and getting underway with it.
Certainly is. The car originally built as the gold bullion machine, so it ran in that unique gold livery, and if you pop the bonnet on Peter's car, it's still got the gold inside the engine bay and the interior. Originally run, of course, by 1968 world champion Denny Holm at Bathurst in 1985 with Ray Smith, and then became another world champion, Graham Crosby, the world motorcycle champion. What a gun he was on 2 wheels, and Cros ran it in 86 with Wayne Wilkinson at Bathurst in those famous Bob Jane T-Mars colours. Hulk untroubled at the front at the moment. Alessi, though, having to keep his eyes peeled on that mirror with Travis Schumacher right on his tail in the BMW Super Tourer.
Kerry McMahon having a great battle out there in the ex-Laurie Nelson Capri Components Mustang. Currently on the road in 7th place, car number 72, battling it out with Oxley in car number 44, Chris Oxley out of New South Wales. So that's a great battle, the BMW and the Mustang.
Yeah, on screen now, Chris Oxley, the number 44 machine. That's a genuine ex-British Touring Car Championship machine, driven by Steve Soper, who knew how to twirl a wheel now and again. Darren had some great battles with John Cleland and all the other psychos in the British Touring Car Championship back in those days. They were fantastic to watch, with all sorts of hand gestures usually going on.
Yeah, there was amazing teams involved there, like the Williams team and Triple Eight were involved back in the day. The iteration that ended up with what Triple Eight we've got here today, challenged down into turn one, but the Mustang coming around there. It really was a much maligned shape of Mustang, that one, wasn't it? It didn't stay true to the pony car at all, did it?
Oh, I think you'll find some pretty big arguments from the Fox body fans, which I am one of. So smaller than, I guess, the original Mustang, but certainly a switch back to form after the Mustang 2. That was the model that really made people turn their nose up a little bit in some circles, but great to have Kerry McMahon out there in that Mustang, a car that Laurie Nelson ran right through the Group A era. So even after most of the Ford teams went to Ford Sierras, Laurie kept running that car, and it's basically the ultimate spec of a Group A Mustang. So a better diff. The original Mustang in that shape came out with a Capri diff, which did not last very long, and it's great to see Kerry out there in the Mustang, as it is great to see Adrian Alessi out there too in the Commodore. There's McMahon on screen having his final season of historic touring car action. He's going to hang up the helmet at the end of the year.
I did see Laurie Nelson actually recently, sadly at the funeral of Bob Gill, but that's where we catch up with people these days. And Laurie, I think he still thinks the hand and feet can dance on the pedals as good as they did in the 80s as well. But Laurie, certainly that car did well, didn't it? He was an out-and-out privateer, and he followed every round.
Yeah, Laurie hung up the helmet probably at the start of last year, sold his Group N Capri to David Crabtree, of course, very fast open wheeler campaigner in historic racing action. David Holt continues to lead in the ex-Kevin Waldock owned Falcon. Tim Macro, of course, and Alan Jones piloted that machine as well. The FAI 1000 all those years ago. Alice is still holding on to that second place in front of Travis Schumacher in the BMW.
Cars coming up on track next is the Group P, Q&R Sports and Racing, Group O Sports and Racing, plus some invited cars in the mix there as well, as the Equity One Winton Festival of Speed continues. Some great support, the GUKW Spares and Machinery, Aussie Soils, FS Spagnolo and Co Accountants, and Cave Hill Engines. I would say a number of these cars have probably had engines down at Cave Hill Engines. They do a tremendous job down there in Lilydale. The cars continue on around. Fantastic reliability, because some of these cars can show a bit of wear over time, but I guess they start to become a little bit rare, although there's some 500 of these supercar chassis going around. I know Aaron Noonan, the V8 Sleuth himself, who is carrying the live stream via the V8 Sleuth website. He's here with his father this weekend, and you can catch up with every single one of those particular chassis on his website, and you can also watch the live streaming.
Surely only a matter of time before these early, I guess we can call them supercars in inverted commas, become a historically ratified category at the moment. They don't have actual historic recognition, which surely is only a matter of time, because these the oldest of these cars are now 30 years old, so surely it's time for them to join the historic ranks, and there's plenty of them out there. As you mentioned, Darren, we've seen them run I guess demonstrations at the Phillip Island Classic, and there's been 20 odd cars there, so it's only a matter of time before we see full fields of these cars hitting the track in anger.
You don't have to go too far in Dandenong or Western Sydney and slide some doors up and some sheds. There's plenty of these things around that could be run again. Like I get the man shed thing, but I certainly more get these are racing cars and they need to be exercised.
Won't get any argument from me.
No, that's right, I know that. But certainly doing a tremendous job. There's the checkered flag, and that will see race 1 for the weekend for the Group A 5 litre and 2 litre category, taken out by Hulk in the Falcon. And home in second place is the Commodore, back to the BMW of Trevor Schumack. So Adrian Aisley will be home in P2. And Kyle Alford home in P3.
Trevor Schumack, in fact, third, Alford fourth.
Coming around to greet the checkered flag as well, Kerry McMahon, the Capri Components Mustang. And the history of the Capri Components was that Laurie ran a business wrecking Capris, and that carried through to the Mustang.
Of course, tomorrow we will have the full field of the Heritage Touring cars racing together, so that will bring some great action with the Group C cars we saw earlier running separately. They'll be mixed in with the cars you've just seen on the track, so that'll be a fantastic spectacle. The biggest roll-up of Group C and Group A Heritage Touring cars we've seen here at the Winton Festival of Speed, and that will be a great spectacle.
Darren Knight, thank you very much as always for your expertise across these historic touring cars and Group A, Group C, 5 litres, Group A, etc. We really appreciate your expertise. You'll disappear off into the night now and come back, and no pun intended, night and night. But away we go, and we will see you tomorrow morning for one of the earlier races. In fact, our first race under 3 litre Group C and 2 litre Group A race at 9:05.
That will be very interesting. So one for the tiddlers, I guess you could say, the smaller cars. We used to have big fields back in the day, particularly Group C, the Escorts and Datsuns, etc., running around as a separate class. So that will be mixing the smaller capacity cars in together. That'll be a great race to watch at around 9:05 tomorrow morning.
Then Group N, Group S, Formula Ford, and the historic touring cars, the Group N's at 10:05. We're going to take a quick break, and by that I mean quick, because we're readying ourselves for the PQ&R Sports Racing Group O Sports and Racing as well. Ron Simmons will be back on the mic with me in just a couple of moments. The hits continue trackside here at the Winton Festival of Speed for 2024. Big thanks to Equity One Wonderland RV. Check out their display right out behind the control tower, in behind the kiosk there, Wonderland RV. And a massive display there right next to the Shannon's Insurance tent. Cool Drive and Grays.com. Darren Knight has joined me, and that generally yesterday meant a fair bit of excitement as a welcome. We saw in the historic touring cars a bit of a crunch up at turn 1, which was didn't result well for those guys yesterday. We're talking a different category here today, but this is pretty cool. We used to get a fair bit bigger in the under 2 litre fields, didn't we?
Good morning, Darren. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to everyone on the VH Sleuth YouTube channel as well, and the VHR website, watching the live stream here from the Equity One Winton Festival of Speed. Darren mentioned the next category coming up on the track now, the smaller cars in Group C and Group A touring cars. Very, very popular, the class wars back in the 70s and 80s. It wasn't the single class we have now with V8 supercars, who are cars of all sorts of capacities and engine configurations. So now we're giving the tiddlers, if you like, a bit of a spotlight for a race by themselves this morning, Darren.
Well, certainly back in the day we saw the likes of Gary Rogers and Michael Stilwell and some of these big names Alan Moffat even drove a very handy, I'm going to call it a Mexico type of body-kitted Escort as well. And even some of the Capris that ran in this sort of trim as well were very, very popular. And, well, we're seeing now today, we're seeing that the Escorts and those sorts of things, Toyota Sprinter, there's the Capri, there's a Celica, the Chickadee Celica there, the number 28 as we come around to take the start of this one.
Rolling start for the under 2 litre, under 3 litre Group A and Group C touring cars, and they're away off the front row of the grid as we get the green light for a go. Peter Woods next, Graham Bailey, Chickadee Celica would lead them down into turn 1. Look at Tony Alford though in the little twin cam Escort, the ex-Harry Barguana machine. He'll take the lead into the S's for the first time.
There's a big name of Australian motorsport, Barguana, and that came down through the generations, but it will be the 75 of Tony Alford lead the way.
Quite a contrast to his usual Nissan GTR antics in heritage touring cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
The little twin cam Escort. Harry Barguana is here this weekend, so good morning, Harry.
Doing a bit of a warm-up session before jumping behind the wheel of the Godzilla as we see the Gavin Adamson car like the Stephen White's dad drove one of those sort of CDT type Geminis, and even prior to the CDT Geminis running as well. But great field, really does give us a look back and gives you an idea of every generation of Escort that was ever raced in the country, doesn't it?
Yes, we've got a very neat example out there too, a Mark II of Jason Delaney from Queensland. He's up there in second place on screen now behind our race leader Tony Alford. That's the car originally campaigned and built by Ray Cutchie, who of course was a key component of the Moffat Ford dealers team. It was actually built in the Moffat workshop, 711 Malvern Road, and Jason Delaney started campaigning this car again at the start of this year, so very early in its return to competition life after sitting dormant for many years. He's doing a great job at the moment up there in second place, as is Carl Muller taking Cole Spender in the twin cam Escort. So Carl Muller in the Ford Capri, ex-Laurie Nelson and Peter Woods machine, and he will now move up into fourth place.
Geez, Laurie Nelson was a big proponent of the Capri, wasn't he? Certainly helped him, his business. He had a wrecking yard and his performance Capri components. We've seen one of his Mustangs racing as well in Group A trim. Another pass for position there.
Derek Wickett in another Mark II Escort, just putting the move on Cole Spender. David Patterson now in the Toyota Sprinter AE86 puts a move on Spender. Good to see Pato back down here, all the way down from Queensland. David Patterson been running in heritage touring cars for many years in that beautiful little Sprinter, the ex-Bob Holden built machine.
And Bob Holden used that for right through its entire era, didn't he? It was very handy at the wheel. Just watching the little extra going around there as well. Not sure that actually took the starter's orders, but it's joined in from pit lane.
Justin Nilsson has some work to do with 4 minutes to go, a little over 4 minutes to go in this race for the under 2 litre and 3 litre Group C and Group A touring cars, as Tony Alford continues to lead from Jason Delaney. Peter Woods now starting to get onto the tail of our leading pair in the Celica. Here they are now on screen. So Woods in the Celica right behind Delaney. Ford versus Toyota. Those famous Chickadee colours on the side of the Woods machine, of course. Graham Bailey, the Chicken Man, took victory at Bathurst, of course, with Alan Grice behind the wheel of that Commodore in 1986.
Famous VK Commodore, the Chickadee livery, which was run around on these cars for quite some time as well. And I guess you think of that model of Celica, you think of Peter Williamson, and you think of the big old heavy race cam that he
started out,
carried.
in fact. Yep, good point, Darren. It started out as a Peter Williamson camera car before Peter sold the car and Graham purchased it, so it does have a bit of history, but now running in the Graham Bailey colours. That's the thing with heritage touring cars, you must pick a year. A lot of these cars had long competition lives, so you must pick a year and you must run it to those specs and that exact colour scheme. So Peter running it in those Chickadee colours, obviously with some updates from when Peter Williamson ran it the previous year.
Good to see, and chasing down the escorts as he would have done. Maybe not the Mark 1 at the same era as the Celica, but certainly the Mark 2 would have been there, and this car would certainly have been there. Crankshaft rebuilders emblazoned across the front of that car, and they go to a lot of effort to present them as they were. The 41 going through there in its livery from the era. So, Daz, just to draw a line through it, these cars are the actual race cars. We're not
Yep.
tributes.
Yep, we saw those fantastic tributes earlier. These are the genuine articles, so they all have to have a logbook and be run exactly to the specifications of the day. So the genuine article, very valuable cars and presented in stunning fashion by all the guys out there at the moment. Derek Wickett nips a break, and the little Mark II Escort after Justin Nielsen rounded him up in the front-wheel drive Pulsar.
He's got the pop-up headlights up there as well, just letting everyone know that he's blazing his way through the field. Just watching his lap time of 1:39. Tony Alford at 1:45.63 on lap number 3. Delaney a 1:45.9, a 1:45.8 by Woods. Muller a 1:44. So at the moment, Justin Nielsen is the fastest car on track and has made his way up into 5th place.
Alfred handy lead now over Jason Delaney, who has his eyes peeled on the mirrors with Peter Woods behind him in the Celica. Carl Muller in the V6 Capri, not far behind. I asked Carl yesterday what he thought of the new Capri, which is an all-electric SUV that looks almost exactly the same as a Polestar 2. He was quite... he wasn't too aggro about it. Just glad to see the Capri name back out there.
Yeah, I guess it is. MG, if you're an MG enthusiast, you can see what they've done with what used to be basically a sports car company is now an SUV company. So, you can't get angry. You just got to support the brand.
Of course, we've got the Mustang Mach-E on sale now, a big 4-door electric SUV with the Mustang name on it. That really roused some people up, didn't it?
Nothing like your Mustang, mate, at all.
Well, it's a very quick SUV, I might add. It's probably...
the electric cars generally are, aren't they?
Certainly are.
Have a look at this lead now. Tony Alford is that is actually just been eaten back into. It was out over a second. It's now at 0.7 of a second. So he's even given it the big ask and starting to get hauled back in. It'll be Jason Delaney, who started out of 5th.
Carl Muller up the inside, Peter Woods to move into 3rd. So the Capri up into 3rd. Woods and the Celica back to 4th.
So changing positions, we're coming up to, I would suggest, our last lap as we get across the line there. Tony Alford has just eased that lead now out to 1.3 seconds, so he's done a good lap, consolidating on his time of 1:45.2, and Delaney was a 1:45.8, so that's where he's found that extra 0.6 of a second on the last lap. Got to get it around one more time. I'd say get the checkered flag. Great to see an open face helmet being used, particularly in the direction of the sun there. We're looking right into the helmet of the driver there, and what I like about it is that you can see the teeth, and that's a big smile.
Or the gritted teeth.
The gritted teeth, is that what it is? Oh, I'm going to haul this up at turn 3. Oh, we're through.
Usually the bigger cars that have those issues. The tight, twisted confines of Winton, very much a happy hunting ground for the smaller cars here. Tony Alford making the most of that. Quite a bit of experience in heritage touring cars over the last few years. Of course, has that fantastic Nissan collection up there in Queensland. Although recently the GTR, the GIO GTR, has been sold on. And it's the first time we've seen Tony behind the wheel of this very pretty little twin-cam Escort, previously campaigned by Harry Barguana. Delaney still in 2nd, Muller right on his tail in the Capri with Woods still 4th. Justin Nielsen, after starting right from the back of the field, he is caught onto this lead pack, but he only has half a lap to go, so he's going to be trying pretty hard to get onto the podium, but might just run out of laps.
Certainly coming around now. Alford last time round a 1:45.24. And Justin did a 1:39.0, so he's in the mix there. Look at that, he's going to steal someone's trophy on this podium. As he looks to the inside, it's going to be the drag race. Who's he going to peg off?
Alford takes the win. Nielsen might be 3rd. Delaney just got home in 2nd. And unbelievably, I've called that correctly, I believe. Jason Delaney
Yes.
2nd. Justin Nielsen right on the line in the little Nissan Pulsar Exa into 3rd place. Carl Muller was nipped on the line, and he fell back to fourth, narrowly in front of Peter Woods. What a great battle between the top 5 in that race, Darren.
Certainly is. They've acknowledging each other as well, having a red-hot go out there. Tony Alford is not a guy that mucks around. He gets the ethos of this sort of historic racing, but he also likes to use the car for what it's supposed to be done, and you've got to applaud that. I do also applaud the fact that it's still running registration number plates on it. I'm pretty sure he doesn't pack it up and drive it all the way back to Queensland.
Well, probably a few years before that era, they actually used to run the race engines in by driving from Melbourne up to Bathurst in the race car.
They did. But that's a good run there. Justin Nilsson got it home there after coming out of the pit lane. Didn't take to the grid. The Escort, Capri and Salika.
Good morning once again, folks. Darren Knight here alongside Ron Simmons to bring you this first race of the day for Heritage Touring Cars and Invited. So it's Group C and Group A Touring Cars, the genuine article. Very good morning to Ron Simmons. G'day, Ron.
G'day there, Darren, and good morning to everybody. And good to see the sun just sort of try to pop through that heavy cloud we had earlier on this morning. So making for great racing, and the circuit will warm up a little bit for these guys. And a great field of cars here today, Darren.
Certainly is, and this will be the first time that we've seen both classes combined. We saw a couple of races earlier in the program with CNA running separately, and of course we saw the smaller capacity cars have their own race this morning. Now it's one in, all in, so a very big grid of Heritage Touring Cars and a couple of invited cars as well. The biggest field we've ever seen here at the Winton Festival of Speed of Heritage Touring Cars, so great to see, and a first for the ranks down here in Victoria. A couple of invited cars are running with them. I guess you could say the forerunner to V8 supercars. We called them 5-litre touring cars back in the day, so Group 3A. We're talking about Falcons out there. David Hulk, who'll be out there in the next Komatsu-sponsored Falcon, EF Falcon. EL Falcon, I should say. And it's great to have David down here. The type of car that replaced Group A. So Group A, the International Formula, ended in 1992, and 1993 we had the homegrown Formula, which of course went on to become V8 Supercars, branded a few years later. Where it was an all Holden versus Ford affair.
Certainly a good mix of cars too, Darren. We've got some really big bangers there. We've got some RX-7s amongst there, a couple of Alfa Romeos, earlier model Mustangs, the Celikas, a little Chickadee Celica there. So a good variety of cars, and the Capri, of course, a couple of little Lotus Cortinas, little Lotus Escorts, and even a Gemini amongst them.
Yep, Gavin Adamson. I've butchered his name there pretty well. Hit a curb in commentary terms there. Yeah, Gavin Adamson, the little PF60 Isuzu coupe, sold as the Gemini out here. Well, the body shell was, at least, with a Japanese spec engine that was eligible for Group C touring cars back in the day. Country dealer team, they got in a little bit of strife with their logo. The Holden dealer team took them to court. Here we go, folks. Down into turn one for the first time. David Holt will lead the field away. Brian Henderson right with him in the Turbo Group C Bluebird. Onto the old back straight for the first time. Cole Alford in the two-wheel drive Nissan Skyline. As Steve Axisa locks the brake next, Scotty Kennedy Commodore. Hulk, though, is leading from Henderson. Adrian Alcey up into third in the Walkinshaw Commodore. Just got up inside the BMW of Trevor Schumack, the Super Touring Machine, one of the invited cars here this weekend.
Well, Hulk really ran away with it yesterday, didn't he? He sort of went off into the boondocks and left everybody else to sort themselves out. But there's the Nissan just ducking inside Hulk as they go up through the cleavage area, the top of the circuit. So at least a passing move there. Whether Hulk's got an issue, I'm not too sure, but he certainly broke away very early in the race yesterday. So let's see how they go. They come up round the top of the circuit. A good mixture of cars getting through there. The little IS's Alfa Romeo there, the beautiful car. I think it could be the ex-Alan Jones, Colin Bond type car. And here we look at them with the... now there's something coming out of the back of the Nissan that could be fuel. And yes, we've got cars spinning. Perhaps something was coming out of the back of the Nissan there. I saw it coming out with some sort of fluid.
Ed Singleton has spun the ex-Steve Harrington Roadways Commodore, and also problems for Kerry McMahon.
There's something coming out of that Nissan, I can tell you. It's getting onto the track, hence making it very slippery for who's behind. Let's have a look. Here he comes, coming down into turn 1, and we'll have a look and see if there's any fluid coming out this time.
Now, looks pretty clean from here. So Henderson leading from Hulk.
Might have been on that the sweeping right-hander when it goes around a left-hander. We'll see if that happens again.
Adrian Allisey holding down third place in the Walkinshaw Commodore, trying to reel in our lead too, as Trevor Schumacher in the BMW right behind him.
Keep a good eye here.
David Hulk
seems clean enough now.
In the Falcon, the car making its competition return after many years parked on the sidelines, looking resplendent in that Komatsu livery. It's a car campaigned by Alan Jones in 1998. Didn't have a great season, Jonesy. Unfortunately that year, no top 10s all year. Bit of an up and down career in touring cars, Jonesy. Undoubted talent, but was in and out of different teams.
Yes, a lot of talk that he did retire from Formula 1 too early, and he even now tells you that he did retire too early. Anyway, he came back to Australia and got stuck into the touring cars and some pretty quick Porsche cars in his day. As we've got the Nissan car 16 just getting by, that's Walkman.
Adam Workman in the Bluebird rounds up Trent Harrison in the ex-Colin Bond Alpha GTV 6. Little Group A machine, the type of car that, of course, Alan Jones was teammate to Colin Bond in that very car,
exactly
that
right.
two-car Alpha team, the first year of Group A in Australia in 1985. Those Alphas really did turn it on.
A good friend, the late Frank Porter, also bought that car and had some good runs with that car very early on before he retired. Okay.
Trent Harrison will have to keep his eyes on the rear-view mirror. He is being caught by Justin Nilsson in the Pulsar Turbo, right on his tail, the little front-wheel drive beastie turbo, around 300 horsepower coming through the front wheels. So quite a handful. Justin Nilsson's been running the car for many years, knows all its follables, and he's right on the tail of Harrison. Here it is, Harrison now putting a move on Workman and gets that position back. So good drive from Trent Harrison. The twisty bits at the top of the circuit really playing into that beautiful handling Alphas.
Yes, it was certainly very well balanced motor car and very nice handling, good braking, good gearbox. Pretty reliable in the first place. So
not great in the rust department though.
No.
Didn't have to worry about that with race cars, but it's really the road version.
I think some people are being a bit unkind there, but anyway, yes, they did have a bit of an issue there for a while, but they said if you stop and listen long enough, you'll hear it rusting, but that's not quite really true. The little car 60, that's an interesting little car, a little extra.
Justin Nilsson there having a great battle with with Adam Workman as Trevor Schumacher brings the BMW into the pits, unfortunately, so his race in the Super Touring Bimmer is coming to an end. Hulk still shadowing our race leader, Brian Henderson. Getting very close to the last lap for the Group A and Group C and invited Heritage Touring cars. Hulk right on Henderson's tail, just waiting to pounce.
Yes, I think Hulk's just holding back there. I think if we get a bit of a straight line here, he just might say, I'll see you later. I don't know. We'll see how he goes. The Nissan is certainly holding its own at this moment.
Pretty quick car in a straight line, the Turbo Bluebird, of course.
Oh, yes.
Famous machine put on pole by George Fury, the last Group C Bathurst 1984. And that, folks, is this very car you're watching now, the number 15 Bluebird of Brian Henderson.
Yes, once they sorted that turbo lag out that a lot of these turbo cars had for a start, they really got... There's still fluid coming out of that car. They'll have to look at that in scrutineering, I'm quite sure. There's, on his any left hand as he's doing, there's fluid coming out the back. as is coming up to the finish, I would think, this particular time. And here's Holt still staying in behind. And we're getting a flag. No, it's still going. So
we're thinking this will be the last lap. Time certain, of course.
Like I said, Holt would just wait his time.
I know we've got a few minutes to go, so no laps. It's time certain this race.
Okay, so we're being a bit misled with some of the timing here today, but never mind. There's Hulk, as I said, he might just wait for his time and give it a big boot full and get past the little Nissan.
Henderson staying in with him though. As we mentioned, very famous among the Nissan fans. That little Bluebird really did set the field on its ear when it arrived in around 1981, locally built from imported Bluebirds. Of course, we sold them here locally. The 2-litre engine, the 1.8 litre turbo was never available here, but it was still eligible as a Group 2 touring car. And Howard Marsden and his very talented team.
Amazing, really, George Fury that came straight out of rallying and drove that car and drove it like it's always been a circuit racer. He was absolutely splendid in the car. Unknown quality, really, coming out onto a bitumen track from rally work, and he did very well indeed. The little Exeter, of course, a very hard car to drive. They had an unusual torque steer problem with those cars.
Lots of it, not unusual, lots of it.
And the girls that drove it, of course, the Ramsons and Gibson girls, they had awful trouble trying to keep the thing on the road.
Yeah, Fred Gibson, of course, his very talented wife, Christine Gibson, drove that Exa. Also shared a couple of drives also with a very young Glenn Seaton as well. As Holt continues to lead from Henderson, they've really scooted away from our third place man at the moment, Adrian Allisey in the Commodore. Very big gap.
Big gap to the next group of cars coming for the third, and Elsley and actually and Elford, Harrison behind him. So good gap in the field. As we watch now, a little extra making an inroad, yes, coming in on the inside of turn 3, gets past the Alpha, as does the lead car Hulk getting through up at the top end there, getting through a couple of slower cars.
Starting to move into the back markers. David Holt continues to lead from Henderson in second in the Bluebird.
As I predicted, I thought Hulk would be just waiting his time, because with his performance yesterday, as quick as he was, he's just held back there in second place for a long time, but he's off into the distance now. Hulk from Henderson and Orsley. Next car's in the group there. They come up the top of the circuit, coming probably, they've got 2 minutes to go, I think. Might just get another lap or so in.
Yeah, I was mentioning Alan Jones didn't have much of a year in 1998 in behind the wheel of that Falcon. It was run by Tony Longhurst's team. Longhurst ran a sister car that was sponsored by those famous green, white and red colours of Castrol, and but all that luck deserted Jonesy that year. As I said, highest placing of 11th. Had a driveline failure at the Sandown 500, so the Enduros didn't go too well. And of course, it was also mixed up in a big accident on the top of the mountain, somebody else's accident. Alan Heath was tapped into a spin, bounced off the bank, and unfortunately, the Komatsu Falcon was collected fairly heavily, so not a good year for Alan Jones and a young Adam Macro, who came straight out of Formula Ford. Was the reigning Formula Ford champion, so didn't have a great year, unfortunately. Was unlucky with Jonesy in 1998.
We're running down about a minute or so to go, so I think this probably be the last lap. As they head down to the hard left-hand, a lot of heavy braking there as they go around just near the old part of the circuit there. And Hulk just accelerating away from Henderson without too much trouble at all. And we're thanking Tilda Trailers for bringing this particular event as well.
Also Build Spec and Lloyd's, the sponsorship of the Group A and Group C Heritage Touring Cars, and invited David Hulk coming to the line.
I'm not sure if he checker flag was just out of our sight there. I don't know that he actually did get the flag.
We're thinking this will be the last lap. 10 seconds on the board. Hulk now starting to put the foot down, opening up a bit of a gap on our second place man, Brian Henderson, in the Turbo Bluebird. Alice is still holding down third place in front of Steve Axisa. So Group A Commodore versus Group C Commodore in that battle for the final spot on the podium. That car of David Hulk, that was back in the days when we had fairly regular parity arguments with the Commodore versus the Falcon, which there's all sorts of hand-wringing back in the day with trimming under trays and trimming gurney flaps on spoilers, etc. So glad that's mostly out of the window these days. Ford and Holden, the factories were both heavily involved in lobbing cams over the years for adjustments as they're trying to get the cars together. And the EL Falcon and the VS and the VT Commodore right in the middle of that argument.
There we go. There is the checkered flag. So
David Hulk takes the win in the Falcon. Successful first meeting so far for the Komatsu Falcon back on the track. Brian Henderson, a great drive to be also the first of the Group C cars in second place in the Datsun Bluebird Turbo. Showing a lot more reliability than they showed back in the day. They were very quick, but often unfortunately let their drivers down, screwing at the maximum amount of power out of that little 1.8 litre inline 4. Alice took third place in the Commodore in front of Steve Axisa. Cole Alford was fifth in the Skyline. Trent Harrison sixth. Must have just got home in front of Justin Nielsen on that last lap. They had a great battle all race long. Lindsay Woolard unfortunately coming to a stop, and the ex-Alan Brown, Tony Edmondson Reed Car Commodore. We also saw Ed Singleton on screen there. He had some issues in the Roadways STP Commodore. Hopefully Elvis, as that car is known, will be back out fit and fighting for the final race this afternoon.
he looked like he actually had a flat right-hand tyre there when I...
Yeah, it looks a bit down in the front corner, doesn't it, Rob?
Yeah, I think that might be the issue there.
Lindsay Woolard, a long-time campaigner in that Recar Commodore. One of the great characters of the paddock. Good to see Ian Ross taking a finish 2 in the ex-Mike Emery XD Falcon, running without the front spoiler. Unfortunately, he had a slip off on the oil turn 1 yesterday, ripped the front splitter off in that culvert down there, which is many a splitter has come to grief down there, Ron. You ever journeyed off down there, Ron, in some of your racing exploits?
Yes.
I thought you might have. Anyone that's done a lap of Winton usually has fallen off at turn 1.
Yeah, we all had a little bit of an altercation here. Turn 1, generally being helped off by somebody else, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's the way it goes. But it's a good little circuit to race out here, and Winton's always been a favourite track of mine, certainly on the short circuit. I've not actually raced on the long circuit.
Heritage touring cars making their way out onto track now. Looking forward to this one. Can David Hulk take 3 from 3 with the Heritage touring cars? Really good field of Heritage touring cars as well. They've really done a terrific job getting this category up to where it really should be. Darren Smith and Darren Knight remaining with you on the track side and on the live streaming. Hope you're enjoying it via the V8 Sleuth website and also the VHRR website as well. Check it all out. We're going deep into this afternoon's racing, and this is really something that's going to get everyone. Look at everyone starting to make their way to the fences. Everyone's starting to fill up that streaming and get on with this. David Hulk's had a really good run in that Falcon right throughout this weekend, and I would suggest on this morning's results, where his best lap time was a 1:32.78, and he was 3/4 of a second faster than the Nissan Bluebird of Brian Henderson. We might see a little bit more of that. Certainly plenty of Commodores in this race, Darren.
Speaking of Commodores, I caught up with Peter Zibris, Premier Supercar team owner, of course. He's out there in the ex-Graham Crosby Bob Jane T-Mart's liveried VK Group A Commodore, having his very first circuit race with the car. So he's learning how to turn corners very quickly. We know how quick he is in a straight line, one of the fastest men in the top fuels in the country, but now having a go at circuit racing, really enjoying it, super enthusiastic. The team, Chad Parrish suggested this, the team have put a little badge on the inside of his Momo steering wheel. It's the Hello Kitty symbol. And they've told Peter that if you get under a 140, we'll take that badge off.
Well, there you go. That's a fair old motivational factor. I like that. That's good. You don't want that on your steering wheel.
No,
that's for sure. Okay, so David Hulk on pole, Brian Henderson right next to him, Adrian Asley, then Stephen Axisa, who has been doing a ripping job in his Commodore, Kyle Alford, and we'll see Kyle out there as well. Looking forward to seeing how he goes. Trent Harrison, Justin Nilsson in the little Exa. There's the Exa, yes, and they're coming down. This is a rolling start, so we'll get through this. Adam Workman to Jeffrey Trembath, Chad Parrish, Ian Ross in the Falcon, Christopher Oxley, Anthony Alford to Carl Muller, Peter Zibris in that orange Commodore which we just mentioned, Peter Woods, Thomas Vonzrak, and then we have David Patterson, Kerry McMahon watching for the number 72 where Kerry can push through to Gary Chick, Cole Spender, Jason Delaney, Gavin Adamson, Peter Abud, Lindsay Woolard, Ed Singleton in the STP car, Trevor Schumacher in the BMW. I haven't actually seen Trevor.
Trev not taking the start. He's got a family commitment, unfortunately.
Yep. Glenn Gertzel, Shane Nicholson and Derek Wickett. Rolling start. David Hulk will hold the field here. Red lights are on. We are about to charge down into turn one. Away we go. Well done by the starter there. Held them all the way down to the line. David Hulk holds out the 15 of Brian Henderson, the Nissan, the Bluebird. Looking to the inside, Hulk understeering off cold tyres. Alford just ranging into the back there as well.
Adrian Ellis in the Walkinshaw Commodore there, number 40, trying to stay ahead of Steve Axisa. That a great battle in this morning's race. The walk, he just got it home over the Group C Commodore of Axisa. As they're all through the first couple of corners safely. David Hulk is our race leader from Brian Henderson in the Turbo Bluebird.
Everyone just letting each other sort themselves out, that mid to rear pack there. No one wanting to come together here, but David Hulk has shown a clean set of heels so far this weekend. This is a longer distance race. The turbocharged Nissans may start to become a little bit vulnerable. There's an RX-7 mixed in there. We've already had a rotary win today. It's not unknown that they might not have an RX-7 come through from mid-pack there as well. It's probably a bit too far away, but
Chad Parrish coming through the field, and the Berkeley, one of the privateer RX-7s, had a few teething issues in earlier runs, so we'll keep an eye on the diminutive yellow and white Berkeley-sponsored rotary.
There's Peter Zibris holding up the couple of the ex-Capri and Mustang of Laurie Nelson as they get through there. So plenty, as this field is called Heritage, plenty of heritage here in Australian touring cars, as we I think it's the old Neville K Commodore, is it, or coming around there?
It's one of the ex-Wilmington. Adrian has a couple of Walkinshaw Commodores at his disposal. Kyle Alford now, the two-wheel drive Nissan Skyline, trying to put a move on Adam Workman in the second of the Bluebird turbos out there. It's good to see Lindsay Woolard take to the track after suffering a puncture in this morning's race.
Chad Parrish down the inside of the Exit Turbo there of Justin Nilsson. There's been concerns with Justin's car right throughout this weekend. The Berkeley exhaust car coming through for Chad, that number 65. Nissan looks up the inside again, but it's they're trying to get through on the number 16 there.
Parrish had a big moment there exiting the old turn 2. Had a bit of a flick and catch manoeuvre there, and that's allowed Justin Nilsson to come through in the little pulsar. So Parrish falls back to 10th, and we'll soon come under pressure from Ian Ross and the big XD Falcon.
Adrian Aisley just streeping through there. Justin Nilsson locking up a left coming into water tank. So the transition from hard left around the sweeper, then swing it back to right, can call you out. There's Ian Ross getting a good look at the back end of his big Falcon. He'll be really looking forward to this longer race to get to stretch the legs of the Falcon there, but we're getting a good shot of, a really good snapshot of Australian motorsport from sort of late 70s through to the early 90s, or even late 80s, sorry, right there with the VH Commodore, the DR, I think, Skyline there in the mix as well. There's the
Ian Ross
XD.
and the Falcon.
Yep.
Minus its front spoiler.
Sans front spoiler. He lost that yesterday in a coming together in turn 1.
Spun off on the oil and went through that big culvert down there at turn 1, so no front spoiler. So it looks a little bit like the XD when it first hit the tracks at the hands of Gary Wilmington. Had very little aero in it, 0 aero in fact. And the front of the Falcon looks a bit like that.
I'm going to suggest probably around Winton you don't need too much of an aero package there as well. So he might actually find it's driving a little bit better in a straight line. But he has got Ed Singleton. This guy knows how to drive fast, raced radicals for a number of seasons with full aero. Now the Roadways STP Commodore, made famous by Alan Grice, but driven very, very well over a number of seasons now by Ed Singleton. And he's got Ian Ross in front of him. Ian just holding the ultimate racing line, and Singleton having to look left, look right. But the 49 Falcon, look at that, just gets up in the rev range a little bit there, pulls clear, and this is where the tricky Falcon will make its way around, changing direction. This is it right there. That's where it does it nicely. Very, very well poised. The ex-Mike Imrie car.
A car only with a handful of races. To its credit, back in the day, a full-on privateer machine, as you can tell by the lack of sponsorship signage on the car. It spent also some time as a sports sedan once Group C went by the wayside, and loves that Falcon. In Son has also raced that car when it first came out of the garage. Fraser now racing GT cars in the Middle East. So Ian having a great time at the wheel of that Falcon. Having to work hard though in front of Singleton in the STP Commodore, which had a gearbox change after the first race this morning. All systems go at the moment, as it is for our race leader David Hulk in the ex-Alan Jones, Adam Mackrell Komatsu EL Falcon, the car that Jonesy ran at Bathurst in '98. Not very successfully, unfortunately for Alan, that whole year. Was caught up in somebody else's accident at Bathurst, and that was basically the end of Jonesy's full-time career in touring cars in this country.
Screens filled now with the big lurching coupe of Rusty French and Leonard, and it's got the Morley Ford sign down the side. I'm pretty sure that ran at some point. It might have been actually the next generation of car that he ran with John Sands sponsorship down the side as well. But certainly that XA doing very well. Really good to see that Henderson is sticking with this. He's still got him inside there. It is the French and Leonard car.
Ex-Rusty French machine. Shared the car with the great Kiwi Leo Leonard at Bathurst all those years ago.
Thomas Vonstrak now doing a really good job, but that doesn't look good, that telltale smoke out of the back there. But if I do remember correctly, you could probably do about 900 Ks at Bathurst with smoke coming out of the back of one of these things.
It's pretty tough old beast, the 351 Cleveland under the bonnet. Less and less reliable as the years went on, unfortunately, but certainly they knew how to put them together. A good battle here on the screen between Derek Wickett in the Escort, Peter Abood in the VL Commodore, a car originally built by the Holden dealer team for John Farrell in Western Australia.
In fact, I think that's the Toyota Sprinter in the back there too, the ex-Bob Holden car there as well.
David Patterson trying to reel in the Commodore of Peter Abood.
David Patterson's doing a ripping job, actually. That's staying with those two cars. No, this is not what we wanted to see.
Vondrasek off the end of the new back straight there in the XC hardtop. Might be coming to retire.
Definitely not, yeah. Well, I guess we've seen smoke out of it. I did say he could run Bathurst for 900 Ks of a 1,000K race with smoke coming out of the back, but I guess Winton Motor Raceway is a fair bit demanding on the left-right stuff. And continuing on actually, just getting out of the way there. So he might be might have just started to become aware of the smoke when you get it start to come back into the cabin, or one of the gauges has gone into the red or something like that. He's grabbed his attention.
Wicket in the Escort leads Patterson, and then Vondrasek in the hard top. Cole Spender, a little twin cam Escort as well. Good to see Wicket back in the saddle. Hasn't seen that car on the circuit for some years. Very popular little car in the class wars of the mid to late 70s, the Ford Escort, and like the Datsun 1600 in Group N, that was a very formidable rally car on the stages, the Mark II Escort.
Yeah, it certainly was, and some of the good footage of like British rallying and stuff like that really does show. And there's a car running a British number plate on it as well. We probably can't say what it says on TV, but on broadcasting, but certainly a number plate off a European car. Have a look at this now. The attacks are coming from Commodores left, right and centre at the moment with Ian Ross. He's got the ex-Grice Harrington car, I think it was, the car, maybe not. Harrington.
Lindsay Woolard, that's the team car of the Grice machine, so that's Alan Brown, the team owner.
Yep.
The Recar, those famous Recar colours, he's putting the pressure on Ian Ross at the moment with Trembath right behind him as well. Traditional Group C battle here through the S's.
Isn't it?
Trembath putting a move on Woolard. A very neat move from Jeff Trembath in the VH Commodore. That car now running to 84 specs. That was originally run for many years by Michael West with that Advanced Australia bonnet.
And just in the background there, another Grice car, the Craven Tirana.
Tony Sawford
weighing in.
Long-time campaigner in that A9X hatchback. One of the original Grice machines. Those famous gold, white and black colours. Right on the tail of Lindsay Woolard as they head up towards the top part of the circuit.
Picked up on a really good part of the race here. Ian Ross has just let Ed Singleton get through. In fact, didn't let him through. Ed Singleton had to fight for it, but he's driven away from this battle now at the moment. Ian Ross 11th, so we've got 11, 12, 13 and 14 on screen now, and the Tirana's gone through.
Sawford gets through on Woolard. I think Woolard might have an issue. He just slowed down a little bit there, or maybe missed a gear, I'm not sure, but he's dropped right back from that battle between Trembath, Ross and now Sawford.
Gee, the Group C trim, you sort of forget how big those guards were when they pumped them out at the end of that Group C era, didn't you? They really did push the limits to get the bigger rubber underneath these cars.
Rubber, particularly the Falcons, the XC, right at the end of Group C. They were massively wide.
I remember the arguments about trying to get the wider wheels so that they could keep it up, the Ford and the Commodore. The arguments, they just raged. The Tirana looking around the outside now as well, so look at those pumped arches out there. A very Australian way to do it, wasn't it, the Group C era?
Trembath gets through on Ian Ross, so good drive there from Jeff Trembath. He's trying to track down the STP Commodore of Ed Singleton. Tony Sawford now trying to round up the Falcon of Ian Ross, so the Falcon might be feeling the pinch in the tyre department for Ian Ross, and that's allowed the Holdens through.
I wonder if the missing front splitter was directing some air to something around the car as well. May have had brake ducts or something off it as well, which would come astray, because that's normally what you mounted off a front splitter or front air dam. You see it in the Commodores, just the little opening underneath the headlights there on the yellow bumper. But they come through there. The number 4 looks up the inside there, doesn't manage to get through. So Lindsay Woolard, he started out of 25th, Lindsay Woolard, now got himself up to 14th. So that's a good 10 spots has made up.
Trembath right on the tail of Ed Singleton. 2 VH Commodores going at it. Hammer and tong. 308 Holden V8 under the bonnet of both of these cars.
Sealed engines too in these cars as well, so you can't go around and play any hanky-panky with them. Ed Singleton, we had a really good story on the broadcast. He walked us through bits and pieces of that car, and he did point out that yes, we have sealed engines, so they are expected to be run exactly in the period of the vehicle that it's been nominated at.
Adam Workman in the second of the Bluebird turbos out there, number 15, trying to chase down the Escort of Jason Delaney. Beautiful little Escort, the Delaney machine, having its first year back in competition. Built by Ray Cutchy in Alan Moffat Racing's workshops in the late 70s.
There's Peter Zibris gone through, and he's got race leader David Hulk ranging up here as well. So David Hulk is swathing his way through the field here. And, well, it is a newer iteration of a race car with a full effective aero kit. Rear wing, under tray on the front. And I would suggest probably the only car out there with an effective under tray, one that was there and actually did something and changed the aspects of the car. Because I remember also when you look at these cars, they were trimming 10 millimetres of under tray off them and 15 millimetres of under tray off them.
It was pretty tedious,
wasn't it?
Every time they did those parity adjustments, as I'm sure they were for the teams, but it was a regular occurrence. I guess it was too in the Group C days, because one car would be given some sort of concession in the Group C days, and then all the other brands would get what they wanted as well. So it sort of cancelled each other out, really.
Yeah, you're not running a heater core, yeah, but I'm running a glove box.
Yeah, yeah,
and that's given me a performance gain.
Which is really what I suppose in a way drove CAMS to adopt Group A, the international formula, in 1985, because it took away all the Holden and Ford and all the other manufacturers lobbying CAMS all the time to get concessions to run in Group C. Group A was an international formula, and what the rule book said, that's what went. So Paris was a long way away from Sandown, so
I like your trusting in the system there, Darren.
Yeah,
they still lobbied. They still wanted more than the other.
Well, and there's some various things that happened in some cars that came from Europe too, which wasn't happening to cars in Australia, which is well documented. As David Holt continues to lead in the Komatsu Falcon.
Oh, where's the Ricar Commodore parked off to driver's right?
Lindsay Woolard, yeah, I thought he might have had an issue. No, he's rejoining the circuit.
Not at full speed though, is he? He's come off, spun to the driver's right, coming through turn 3, so that's probably a full loop there. Powered on and gone round in a circle as Peter Zibris just goes through and claims that unlapped spot. And there is our car number 2 on the road. 4.8 seconds, that's the Henderson car, number 15. And closing at the moment, that gap is just slightly ticking back. Our race leader now moving up onto Ian Ross. And there is the 15 of Henderson as well. So, great battle here. This has changed for spot here.
Yeah,
Singleton goes back one.
Jeff Trembrath in the number 52 machine. I beg your pardon, that is Glenn Gerstle in the ex-Fred Geisler machine. Been calling in Trembrath, both yellow. I need a new prescription. Have to go and see Bill Cutler, I think. So Glenn Gerstle getting a good run on Ed Singleton. Up into 10th, into the top 10 for Gerstle for the first time this weekend. Singleton fighting back, the Commodore side by side into the S's. Tony Sawford just waiting for the two Commodores to do something silly, and he'll be through in the A&X. Gerstle, Singleton, neck and neck.
This is riveting stuff, isn't it? Not really sure how this one's going to play out. Ed Singleton seems to be responding with some pace. He started off out of 26th, currently in 11th. So Gerstle has just managed to squeeze on through, and Sawford not quite in striking range, but at the moment Ed Singleton's getting very racy in the number 6. And I'm going to say, Darren, he just showed, oh look, hopefully that's not, it is, it's the 15.
Our second place
car number
driver,
2 on the road.
Brian Henderson has gone off the circuit, he's rejoining.
There's an RX-7 parked up over there as well.
Chad Parrish retired a bit earlier, unfortunately, in the Berkeley RX-7. So where will that shake out? Can Brian Henderson rejoin in second place? He's still showing as second on the timing screens. Obviously went over the edge a little bit there in his pursuit of our race leader, David Hulk. There is Henderson on screen at the moment, the number 15 Bluebird. Adam Workman is also out there too, and another Bluebird, number 16.
Oh, it's got issues. There's something dragging under, I'm going to say, a trailing arm, or is it a Panhard rod? Or, not Panhard rod, Watts link under the back of that car. Yeah,
that car is not happy.
Retiring, isn't it?
Yep. Well, disappointing there for Brian Henderson, the number 15, after a very strong showing in the Turbo Bluebird this morning, finished second behind David Holt. Looks like his race is coming to an end. Meanwhile, Ed Singleton has got past Glenn Gerstle. So Singleton on the charge in the ex-Steve Harrington Roadways STP Commodore. So Gerstle back to 11th, Singleton up to 10th, and now Gerstle has his mirror full of the ex-Grover Mould Racing A9X of Tony Sawford.
Justin Nielsen is the next one for Ed Singleton, and I can tell you he is now on heading up to turn 11, so I think that might be a bridge too far away with 3.5 minutes left in this race. Sawtell has been just sitting off the back of this battle, and he hasn't really pounced in any way, shape or form, just enjoying a lovely Sunday afternoon race around Winton Motor Raceway. If it comes to him, it comes to him as the Gemini, the CDT Gemini, just coming out there. Don't worry about that smoke in the background. That's part of the Victorian Motorcana Championship off on the skid pan on driver's left at the sweeper. David Holt not getting out of the corner there nicely in the 9, gets up and running initially, so I reckon he might have missed a gear. Not that it's going to be of any issue.
Having its first meeting since 2001, this car. So David getting used to the car after the car being parked for many years. Ran in the Konica series after Jonesy ran it in the main game. So its last race was 2001 at Bathurst. So long time between drinks, as Gerstle now starting to fight back on Ed Singleton in that battle for the final place in the top 10.
This is a good drive here, and I guess David's going to have have an understanding at some point. You can't just leave a car lying around for 23 years and bring it out and expect you're going to win every race, although so far 3 from 3 is looking pretty cool, isn't it?
Yep, and he's been driving well within himself as well, just looking after the machinery, getting used to it. Previously campaigned a Group A Commodore, a Walkinshaw, the ex-Bob Forbes Racing GO Commodore, which won a race in England, its new home last weekend, which is great to hear. So David, a long-time campaigner in heritage touring cars, and now branching out into the next step, I guess you could say, of the forerunner of V8 supercars. So 5-litre touring cars.
There's a lot of our local series type cars in the UK these days, isn't there?
Very popular. Bit of a contrast to the usual little 2-litre touring cars that the English have been so fond of over the years.
Yeah, certainly throw the big 5-litre into it, and it's twice as big as what they're used to. Gives it some sound, but I've got to say the English know how to use the engineering around a 2-litre car with its ability to change directions as well and take it up to it. But we do see quite a lot of these cars when they come on the market, getting in auctions and things like that, getting swooped on by English collectors or English racers as well. You know, like the boss of McLaren's got a couple of supercars even before he owned half of Walkinshaw United.
Zach Brown, a very avid car collector, and uses them too, which is exactly what Peter Zibris is doing out there too. In his Bob Jane T-Mart sponsored VK Commodore. Great to see it out there instead of a man shed somewhere. So well done to Zibris' team for getting it out there.
Sawtell's gone through in the Tirana.
Singleton lost a couple of places on that lap, so Gerstle and Sawford have both got past Ed Singleton, and he's running out of time now to get those places back and get back into the top 10. So Gerstle now 10th in front of Sawford.
Yeah, that's a big change there. The Sprinter just getting out of the way as these cars come on through. The 54 Escort there has no real battle to be waged with these guys.
Sawford trying to put a move on Singleton as we head towards the end of this race, with our race leader David Holk well out in front.
Comes back down through the gearbox. It's the turns back on itself, left-hander. Difficult corner to get right, that one. The corner has no camber to it whatsoever. Very flat corner, and turn the car in. And it really is a wait, and then apply the power. This guy has been not waiting. In fact, he's been applying the power with absolute authority. Checkered flag is being waved, and David Holk, what a celebration. That is going to be a wonderful trip home for David Holk as he gets the number 9 through to the victory.
Adrian Allisey will take second place in the Walkinshaw Commodore.
That's a good result too, really. The Walkinshaw was much maligned as a car. Had some success sporadically. As we watch some of the other battles are now finished. Ed Singleton actually got home in front of Gersel and Sawford as well for 9th, 10th and 11th. So Singleton pushed into the 10 for that result.
Steve Vaxisa was the final step on the podium in the VH Commodore. He'll be happy with that. Well done to the Heritage Touring Car guys, Group A and Group C. And of course, the invited Falcon of David Hulk. Surely it's only a matter of time before we see more of these early 5-litre touring cars out of the sheds and onto the track where they should be. So well done to David and his team.
Darren, well done to you too. Thank you very much for all of your years of knowledge and expertise helping us with these cars.
Jason Delaney had an interesting last lap there. He's fallen off on the very last lap in that little Mark II Escort.
It's a shame, isn't it?
And Peter Zubris has not been able to get into a 140, unfortunately. So the Hello Kitty logo will stay in the middle of Peter's steering wheel for the time being, but I'm sure he won't be far off a 141. So he's getting there for the first time out there in that car, and one of his very few circuit races, doing an excellent job.